All right, guys, we are live. I want to welcome you all to this evening's chat. It's a very important discussion tonight that we're going to have. We have Jordan from Gun Owners of America on with us this evening. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. So, first, guys, I just want to let everybody know, please don't cuss or go crazy in the comment section. You could get blocked or banned for doing that. It's not because we're trying to censor. If you do that, that will cause YouTube to kill the stream. So we're trying to keep people from having the stream yanked. It's not because we want to censor people. With that being said, Jordan, man, it's been crazy. We haven't spoken in a while, and when we were talking on the phone just recently, because it's been a few weeks since we last spoke, we were saying, man, we wish when we did call each other, it was on better terms. We didn't have craziness going on, right?
Yeah.
So you are currently in Georgia, and there's a URL that you guys can see right now at the bottom of your screen. It's gunowners.org/volunteer. And Jordan, can you tell us why you're in Georgia and what's going on down there?
Because of the makeup of the election, the results of the election, it's came out that everything rides on Georgia, right? With the presidency, the media and others have said Joe Biden is going to be our president. Whether that turns out to be true or not, we will see, but that's what things are pointing to. In the House of Representatives, the anti-gunners retained a majority, and now it all comes down to the Senate, and the makeup of the Senate has yet to be determined. And it will be determined with Georgia, right? In Georgia, that has went to a runoff election, right? Because neither candidate got more than 50% of the vote. It goes to a runoff election, and both senators are up for re-election here in Georgia. You have Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue. Those are the incumbents. Those are the Republicans. Those are the pro-gun choice, and they're facing off against some rabidly anti-gun people. And the way the math works out is if Republicans lose both of those seats, it will be a 50-50 split in the Senate, which is effectively an anti-gun majority because Kamala Harris will be the tie-breaking vote, and she will greenlight all the gun control that we could ever want, or they could ever want, as well as destroying the filibuster, which has been our tool to stopping a lot of gun control, packing the court with anti-gun judges, and giving statehood to D.C. and Puerto Rico, which would forever cement an anti-gun majority in the Senate. And so pro-gunners could never reclaim the Senate and pass anything. So that's what's at stake here.
Yeah.
And, every 4 years they say, oh, this is the most important election of our lifetime. But really, truly, these Georgia runoffs elections are a gun owner's most important election of our lifetime. And that's why Georgia GOA is here. It's why I'm here. And we're doing everything we can to get out the vote.
So, guys, first of all, I just want to let you know. So I realize that there are pro-gun Democrats, meaning there are pro-gun Democrats that vote. However, in D.C., finding a pro-gun politician that runs as a Democrat is becoming increasingly scarce to the point where I would hazard to say that there are no pro-gun Democrats left in Congress at this point. Anti-gun politics have become a plank in the Democratic Party platform. I don't like to split things versus, Democrat versus Republican, but for the purposes of this conversation, we have to, because we're talking about the politicians and we're not talking about the necessary voters. I know that there are a lot of people that identify as Democrat that watch our channel, that even support us over on Patreon, and they're pro-gun. But that doesn't mean that they are represented that way in the halls of Congress, because really they're not. So again, for the purposes of this conversation, we will be, because I usually say gunner and anti-gunner, but for the purpose of this conversation, it boils down to who holds the reins of power in the White House, the House, and the Senate. The House is still controlled by the Democratic Party. Joe Biden has won the election for all intents and purposes. I know it still hasn't been officially called, but let's just assume that he has. He has on his website, if you go to Joe Biden's website, just search Biden gun control plan, click the link that Google gives you, and you will see 3 pages of what he wants to accomplish during his presidency. I have never seen such a list before on a presidential candidate's website, ever. And it calls from everything from banning all online gun sales, ammunition sales, another assault weapons ban, magazine ban. It just anything you can think of that could be banned, they want to ban. They want to move all AR-15s and AKs or semi-automatic firearms to the NFA registry. They want to make you register your magazines over 10 rounds. Each magazine they want to move to the NFA registry. Keep in mind, this brings a $200 tax with every single item. If they do that, they're killing the Second Amendment, and they're going to tax gun owners to death by doing this. They talked about a forced gun buyback. They've talked about all sorts of stuff, and it's all on his website if you care to go look at it. And that's why when Jordan says this is the most important election of our lives, it truly is in terms of the Second Amendment this time. Because again, I have never seen a president run on the anti-gun position that is clearly displayed on Biden's website. That anti-gun, I've never seen a president go that far and openly admit it and run for president and then be elected. So it's going to be a bumpy 4 years. If we, and when I say we, I'm saying we as a gun community. I'm not a Republican. I don't believe in partisan politics. I think both parties are equally corrupt. The Republicans historically have done just as much damage to our Second Amendment rights as the Democrats, perhaps more, and that's mostly because gun owners go to sleep when a Republican sits in the White House, and they don't wake up until a Democrat sits in the White House. But and I say we, I'm talking about us as gun owners. We stand to lose everything if the Republicans don't hold the line in the Senate. Now, there are 2 candidates running for the Senate. Right now, if neither wins, correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan, but if neither wins and both Senate seats go to the Democrats then we have a 50-50 split with Harris then being the deciding vote. So in reality, the Democrats will then control the Senate, right? Because obviously Harris is going to push for Biden's gun control plan, and that's just an unfortunate reality. So we really need both of those senator seats to be held as Republican seats, because we, and Jordan, you can speak to this better than anybody, when we go to lobby against anti-gun bills on the Hill, Democrats pretty much slam the door in your face. The Republicans can be pressured. Even Republicans that are wishy-washy, they can be pressured to vote right, vote for freedom. That's not always the case with anti-gun Democrats. When they see GOA come in there or any of the other gun lobbies, they'll just slam the door in your face. They don't want to talk to you. And Jordan, is that a true statement, or is that kind of how does that look on the Hill?
You're exactly right. If you do get a meeting with a Democrat, they might nod and shake their head and everything. But when you walk out the door, they're gonna laugh at you and throw whatever information you gave them in the trash. So, right. It is very sad, but the Democratic Party has forsaken gun owners, even the gun owners in their own party, and they have adopted extreme radical gun control, as Tim just described, and that's why these Senate races are so important, because it will be the only firewall we have to stop everything. And I'm not saying we can stop everything. This is our best chance to stop most of it.
Right.
This is just because of how the cards fell. And the best thing we can do is win these 2 Senate seats, elect pro-gunners to the majority in the House in 2022, and elect a pro-gun president in 2024. That's the situation we're at. But if we don't win this first election on January 5th, then it's over. The Second Amendment, as we know it, is gone.
And guys, I can't stress enough that if these anti-gun laws become law, it's almost impossible to undo them. Even if we were to seat a staunchly pro-gun president after it in 2024, and should the Republicans win the House and the Senate, or maybe just one chamber, the laws that get passed by this administration, there's almost a 99.99% chance they can't or won't be undone. So that's why we have to fight to make sure these laws never get on the books. It's much easier to stop a law from becoming a law than it is to undo a law that gets passed and signed into law. So,
Exactly.
this isn't fear mongering. This, you'll find people within the gun community, oh, Biden's not that anti-gun, or, oh, every president talks about gun control. It's not going to happen. People saying that didn't live through the 94 assault weapons ban. I did. And gun owners were saying the exact same thing. It'll never happen. Not in America. There ain't enough votes. Well, it did pass. Thank God they had a sunset clause in that law. It won't happen again. If they get another assault weapons ban, there won't be a sunset clause. It will be the law of the land for the rest of your life and your children's lives. And so thank God that bill sunset and that law sunset after 10 years. So in 2004, that law went away. Some vestiges of it stuck around, but the assault weapons ban was gone. So if they do it again, we're royally screwed. And, look, I'm not going to say what people should or shouldn't do should that happen. Let's not get into that right now. That's how we lose our voice in social media. What we have to do is focus on fighting to make sure that it doesn't happen. And Mitch McConnell, if he holds true to what he's been doing so far in terms of frustrating efforts by the House Democrats, then hopefully he will continue that tradition should he maintain the majority in the Senate. So any bills that come from the House that are anti-gun, Mitch McConnell, just to spite the Democrats, will oppose it in the Senate and may not even let the bills to the floor for a vote. So, it's dirty. It's ugly politics, but that's where we're at. And if we don't do something about it, there's no one doing it once it happens. So with Georgia, there's all sorts of stuff going on. We have a lot of money coming from billionaires that are anti-gun, and they're dumping money into these two races, to make sure the Democrats win, so they can get their progressive agenda pushed forward, including Bloomberg dumping money into Georgia. And we all know that Bloomberg has one thing on his mind, and that's gun control. So there are things that we can do, even if we don't live in the state of Georgia. Jordan, please tell our viewers what they can do to help fight in Georgia for these 2 Senate seats.
So what you can do, whether you live in Georgia or not in Georgia, is help us reach voters. This election, it can be decided by who reaches the most voters. And that's why I'm here, right? I've spent this entire week knocking on doors, right? Reaching voters. But if you don't live in Georgia, what you can do is use phone calls. And we have a whole program that we have that uses an app on your phone that tells you who to call, and it masks your number, and it's really easy to use. And you can call voters and say, hey, can gun owners count on you to support the Second Amendment when you vote in this runoff election, right? And that really goes a long way in making a difference and getting out people to vote. If you live in Georgia, or if you live nearby and you want to come help, then come help us door knock. I have 10,000 of these brochures, door hangers that we've been giving out, and truly that makes the biggest difference. When someone sees that someone believes in the cause enough to walk up to their door and knock on their door and tell them about it, and say, get out the vote, that has a huge impact on voters, and that's why we're doing that. So we plan on door knocking all throughout November and December of getting out the vote, and that's why we need your help. So if you can go to gunowners.org/volunteer, and you can sign up, and then tell us whether if you want to door knock or make calls, and then we will contact you and get everything and take it from there, and train you and give you all the tools you need to be effective. But the more people we have, the greater reach that we can have. So I need your help, guys.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing this stream, is because we need people in bordering states. I live in Indiana, and it's a 12-hour drive for me to get there. But you know what? Come December, we're working out the dates, but I'm going to Georgia for a week. I'm going to go door knocking with GOA. We're going to do radio shows I say we, I'm working with Iraq veteran 8888. He lives just south of Atlanta. We're going to be working with him and his crew, and then he's also bringing in other social media folks, and we're just going to do everything we can to just dominate the airwaves, get people on the ground, door knocking, doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we get the result that we need to fight any of these anti-gun laws that are, just one highly publicized shooting away from being proposed and possibly passed. So, when I start, I'm going through here trying to look at the super chats, guys. Thank you so much for the super chats. We are viewer supported. There's a hashtag Save Georgia out there. So we will be going down. We will start posting those dates to our audiences. We're going to ask that you guys come out. We're going to hit rallies. We're going to be doing rallies. Again, we'll do the radio show circuit. We're going to do the knocking on doors. We're working right now to find a venue where we can have all of you that are willing to help come out, meet with us, meet with GOA. Jordan will be there and, get trained up to be able to go out and become politically active. Again, you do not have to be a resident of Georgia to do this. So it's really, really important, guys, that we motivate the base and we get you guys out there helping us. And I mean, like I said, I'm 12 hours away. It's a one-day drive for us. We're going to put in one day on the road, a solid 12 hours to get there. And then we're going to stay there as many days as we can. I know that we're coming right up on the holidays. Travel's going to be tough. We have the whole COVID stuff going on. Various states are, talking about lockdowns again. Doesn't matter. If I have to walk there, I'm going to get my rear end to Georgia. And we ask that you guys do the same and support us. We will post more information again as we get it. So, Jordan, what else is going on there? I know that you've been talking to and meeting with Iraq veteran, I think today, correct?
Yesterday.
And what were you guys chatting about? Obviously, some of the stuff that I was just bringing up. Hold on, I'm going to post up some super chats here. Guys, if you have questions, please ask the questions. We have so many people posting. It's not just pandering. If you guys do a super chat, I will post it up. There, I already posted this one. I'm looking for the other one, and we'll answer your question.
Well, I've never seen the Democrats, the anti-gun Democrats, behave like this. And what is really concerning to me is how they want is that they want to eliminate the filibuster. And let me talk about that for a second, right? After Sandy Hook and after big calls for gun control, the tool that we've used through pro-gun senators is the filibuster. And what that does is it forces debate where you can have a vote on an issue, on a significant issue. And it also forces a 60 vote threshold rather than a simple majority. Right. So after Sandy Hook, I believe we worked with like Cruz and Lee and Paul, some of the pro-gun guys, and they filibustered for hours and hours and hours, preventing a vote. And that is effectively killed the gun control. But now what Schumer is saying that they want to do is get rid of that. Right. So that's taking away our tool. And then all you need is a simple majority. And then they can pass it. And that just flips our founding fathers and our system of government on its head, right? Yep. It said that the Senate is supposed to be the saucer from the House to let things cool and mellow and debate the issues and really, make good law, not bad law. And, they just want to turn the Senate into another house. Yeah. And just rush things through. And that's why it is so important that we stop this. I just want to, because Keith did a super chat. Thank you, Keith. He's asking, why are there 3 videos private, 1 video deleted in your firearms videos playlist? I have no idea. We have well over 1,000 videos, and YouTube does weird things. I don't know. I wish I could answer your question. I honestly don't know. Let's see. We have another super chat here, and I want to kind of drill down into the whole Senate. This super chat is for you, Jordan. Great job, Jordan. Thank you.
He appreciates that. Let's see. We got another super chat popping here. Character lifting some weights, saying keep it up. Okay. But with regards to the Senate, so you brought up some stuff at the beginning of the stream that's really important. I don't want to gloss over. You talked about, look, I don't want to get into partisan politics, but what it looks like is that the Democratic Party is trying to fix the game so that going forward, we in essence have a one-party country. They have promised, I mean, I'm not making this up. All you have to do is 10 minutes of Google searching and you'll find they're not even hiding it anymore. They want to do what Jordan's talking about. They want to make DC a state. They want to make Puerto Rico a state, or maybe even the Virgin Islands, who knows? But by doing that, that gives them more seats that they can have in the Senate. And they trust that when they make these areas states, that they will get Democrat seats in the Senate. So that by doing that, they're stacking the Senate. They've talked about openly stacking the Supreme Court. Right now we have 9 justices. They may take that to 11 justices and purposely stack that court with activist left-wing justices that have a life term. And so by doing all these things, by changing the rules if they get power and openly boasting about it and motivating their base by saying, we're going to do this, what the Democrats are saying is we want to make sure the Republicans never have power again. We will become a one-party state. And that sounds an awful lot like the Soviet Union to me. All right.
You're exactly right. They want to. I personally, I believe they want to transform our country and flip what our founders envisioned on its head. They don't respect limited government. They don't respect the Constitution. They don't respect your freedom. They care about their power. And when you own a gun, that limits their power. So they want to take that away from you. So again, that's why it all comes down to this, and that's why we are going, so heavily invested in this. GOA is spending a lot of money in Georgia right now, and groups from other states. I know, like my friends at Grassroots North Carolina, they're a great gun rights group. They're coming down to Georgia to help. There are people from all around the country coming in to help because they realize the significance of this.
Yeah, it is absolutely huge. And I'm trying to move through some of the super chats here. What's the best thing people can do to help GOA in Georgia?
Go to that link and sign up to either door knock or volunteer or make phone calls. And then, like I said, we will contact you and set you up. But that's the absolute #1 best thing you can do. The more people that GOA has at our disposal to activate, the more people we can reach, which means more votes. And which hopefully will mean that we win the races. So that's the best thing you can do.
Guys, I just want to stress that I've been working with GOA for years. GOA has over a 40-year history of being staunchly pro-Second Amendment. They have never wavered or bent at any time in those 40 years in terms of supporting our Second Amendment rights in their entirety. They're for getting rid of the NFA. They're for all the things the other gun rights groups would tell you. Not all of them. There's other good groups out there. But some groups will tell you that it's impossible to do some of these things. No, it's not. If we keep telling ourselves these things are impossible, we can't accomplish them. So GOA is a true Second Amendment group that has a minimal staff. They don't waste money buying, their CEO expensive suits and flying them around on private jets. They spend money very carefully and fight court battles when they can, and they do things like what they're doing in Georgia. And some people will say, well, where was the GOA when they did this in California? Guys, GOA has 50 states that they have to try to help. They have limited funds. They need support from the Second Amendment community to fight more battles. It's not because they're turning their back on states or gun owners in various states. It's because they have limited resources. If they had the resources of larger groups, and I know you hate it when I talk about the NRA or any other group, I'm going to name them, the NRA. If they had the resources of the NRA, they would do a lot more with the money than NRA has. NRA will rake in $350 million in a year, and they'll spend less than $10 million sending it to the ILA, which is their legislative fighting branch. So, there's $300 million that could be used to actually fight for our Second Amendment rights that get used for other programs. So, or making Wayne filthy rich. So that's why I back GOA. That's why, you'll see me supporting them. And that's why you'll see them in places like Georgia. So if you could support them, if you can't make it to Georgia, if you can't, come out and help us down there, I understand that. There's people that I got messages from people in Seattle saying, I can't make the trip. What do I do? Support the GOA. Go to their website and become a member. I mean, that's the least you can do. And it helps tremendously because with more money and more support and more members, when they go and they start knocking on the doors in the halls of Congress, people will listen to them. If they go from 2 million members to 6 million members, all of a sudden, people, even the Democrats, will start going, oh, we might have to listen to what these guys have to say. So if you want to help, please consider becoming a GOA member. It means a lot. All right, so here's a big super chat. It says, if everything goes south, is litigation an option? If so, who will be heading this effort?
Well, if we lose the Senate and they pass all the nonsense they want to pass, I'm sure there will be multiple legal challenges challenging it all. And I know GOA will be challenging it to the best of our strength and our ability. But really, as Tim made the point earlier, once something's made law, it's much harder to get it overturned in the courts. An example is kind of like bump stocks, right? Mm-hmm. Tim is on our bump stock lawsuit. GOA is suing the President Trump, over bump stocks, right? Yep. But really, you look at it, and the damage has been done, right? Because people either had to surrender or destroy their bump stocks, or they're a felon in waiting, right? Even if we win our bump stock suit, good people had to destroy their bump stocks if they chose to do that.
Right.
And so that's why we do not want this to become law, because it is extremely difficult to get something repealed. And I hope, like Amy Coney Barrett, and the other pro-gun justices would rule right. But the way that has to wind through the courts in the years and millions of dollars that takes, the damage may already be done, and we'll have a shell of the Second Amendment.
So let's say that of course, if this, if any of these laws get passed that are on Biden's gun safety, whatever page on his campaign website, keep in mind, if they, let's say, do another assault weapons ban, or they ban magazines over 10 rounds, while that's being litigated for years, you're a felon if you don't comply with the law. So that means you have to surrender or destroy your property, like the bump stocks, or you have to be a peaceful non-compliance type of person and bury it and hope that you don't get caught. Meanwhile, the law enforcement is going to be picking people off one at a time incrementally when they find people with these banned items. And so, yes, it can be litigated. Yes, there's a chance we can beat some of these laws, under the Second Amendment. If Trump's appointments are solid, we don't know if they are, but let's assume that they are. But that would come years later. It has to work its way through all the courts. Somebody has to pay for that. Somebody has to fund that lawsuit, and they have to be able to fund it to the tune of millions of dollars all the way to the very end, to the SCOTUS decision, assuming they even hear the case. Yeah. Meanwhile, again, you'll find yourself, possibly being a felon because you decided not to comply. And again, I don't want to get into the whole non-compliance thing or Civil War discussion, whatever that people want to talk about on the internet. It's not appropriate to do that right now, because that's a great way for us all to lose our voices. But here's, one thing to keep in mind. When the feds pass these types of laws, they don't have the manpower to enforce them. And this is why being very politically active at the state level is important. Electing a pro-gun sheriff is critical. Electing pro-gun legislature representatives in the state, not the federal level, at the state level, is critical. Because when the feds pass these goofy laws and they grossly infringe on our Second Amendment rights, the states can stand up to the federal government and say, you are not enforcing that in our state. The sheriff can stand up to those federal officers and say, we're just simply not going to enforce this. The feds don't have the manpower to enforce these laws that they pass. They're going to look to the states, to state police, to local municipalities, to sheriffs to enforce these laws. And if the states say, nope, we're not enforcing them, that's one of our backup plans. It's not ideal, but it's important that don't just focus on the federal battles and federal elections. You have to focus at the state level as well, because the states, freedom states, are going to stand up to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Beto O'Rourke, if he's appointed their gun czar, and say, no, not in our state, not enforcing it. And there's nothing the feds can really do at that point. Again, they don't have the manpower. So I just wanted to stress that. I want people to know that you guys really have to focus at the state level and make sure that you have pro-Second Amendment representatives all the way around. There's another super chat from Doug, and it says, is it possible to reach out to help Democrats and Democrat politicians to see the value of the Second Amendment? I wish. They talk about, I've seen banter, posts on Instagram and stuff of Democrats saying that Republicans, have to be deprogrammed and need to go to re-education camps. It would be, it would be great if we could have a civil conversation with anti-gunners. The problem is they're driven by irrational fear and ignorance. And overcoming that irrational fear and ignorance requires taking them out, getting them to the range, showing them that firearms aren't evil, getting them to look at actual FBI statistics that say you're more likely to be struck by lightning 10 times than to die by somebody wielding an AR-15 at any time. They over-exaggerate the fear, and they have everybody running scared of the AR-15 now, and they have every news media outlet pushing this narrative, when in reality, AR-15s are almost never used in violent crime or murders. But they have everybody in America, not everybody, but a large number of people in America fearing these rifles. And people that don't understand that these rifles aren't evil and that somehow they just showed up on the scene yesterday and, we just can't be trusted with them anymore. Getting them to reverse that mindset's really, really difficult. It's not saying it's impossible, but how you flip them to our way of thinking, I don't know. I'm open for ideas.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. Again, like Tim said at the beginning, the Democrat Party as a political organization, the elected officials, have by and large abandoned gun owners, even their gun owning base. And that's why GOA is actually targeting, and the people who we door knock and phone call, gun owning Democrats and gun owning independents. That's part of our reach. I knocked on doors this week that had a Biden sign in the yard, right? And they weren't home, so I didn't get to have a conversation. But we're targeting those who may not be your typical, stereotypical Republican, just so we can fill in that gap and try to get those folks to realize that, look, Warnock and Osloff are anti-gun people. If you bought a gun during 2020 because of the virus or the unrest, because of all the craziness going on, if your vote for Warnock and Osloff is a vote against yourself, against your self-interest because of your gun. So that's the folks who we are targeting, among others. But it is difficult to help them see the light as well. So
it is, and I mean, each of us, have a responsibility to reach out to our Democratic friends that are around us, family members, people that you work with, that you're friends with, and get them to the range and, get them starting to understand that firearms are a perfectly normal part of American history and culture. They are not a threat to our society. To the contrary, they're an essential part to our freedom. The reason the Second Amendment exists isn't for deer hunting, and we've been over this a million times. It isn't for anything other than putting the ultimate power of government in the hands of the people. And it's an emergency switch. Should the United States government become tyrannical and no longer represent the will of the people, that Second Amendment gives us the power to stand up, put our foot down, and say, no more. You're not in my state, not in my county, not in my neck of the woods. And that's an important thing to understand, and it's an important thing to teach that isn't even taught in school anymore, because the government fears an armed population. And the government would like nothing more than to get rid of the Second Amendment and get rid of all the guns in our hands, because that would make them feel more secure. But the reality is politicians should fear us. They should have the fear that if they go too far, that they become tyrannical, that we will take the power away from them by force if necessary. And so, that's something that it has to be taught to people. Again, our public schools just don't teach American history the way they should. You have entire generations of people being brought up to believe that the Second Amendment protects hunting and that there has to be a sporting purpose to gun ownership. No, that's not why we have a Second Amendment. And so it's up to each one of us to try to reach out to people. I know I've done it. I have friends that I worked in Chicago for many years. Everybody I worked with was anti-gun, but still I was able to reach some of them, and some of them are gun owners. And, at Copper Custom, we've seen tons of people that would identify as being Democrat coming and buying guns because they all of a sudden see the importance of being able to protect themselves. And it's not that they're buying guns to go kill gun people. They're buying guns because they're just afraid of what the government may or may not do, or what some of these rioters may or may not do. They want to protect themselves, their families, and their homes and businesses, just as we do. And so those folks, it's a little bit easier to reach. We had an anti-gun politician in Valparaiso where the gun store is. His name is Bob Cotton, and he came into Copper and bought a revolver. And I thought that was pretty funny, given the fact that the guy's been staunchly anti-gun. And I went over to his Facebook page and I said, hey, welcome to the Second Amendment community. You've preached for so many years that guns are bad and you wanted to, ban guns. You just recently purchased a gun. How do you reconcile that? And his response was, well, I've always been pro Second Amendment. And then he just kind of left it with that. He didn't drill down. And it's like, no, Bob, you haven't. You are to a degree now, but because he finally realized that he himself needed something. But many times these politicians think of themselves as being a different class of citizens. So they're used to having Secret Service protection. They're used to having armed guards providing their security for them. And we peasants, they don't understand our desire to want to protect ourselves and our families, our businesses, our homes. They don't understand that desire, or they just don't want to recognize it because it's not important to them. They fear us more, and they would rather just have us disarmed. They don't care about what our needs are.
Exactly. I saw a super chat about contacting your representatives. I want to address if possible. This guy says, how can I convince my friend that contacting your representatives actually does something? And they listen, right?
Yep.
Well, a lot of times when there's a hot button issue, when legislatures are getting a lot of calls about things, they're keeping a tally, right? They're keeping a tally of, support of the Second Amendment, anti-gun, and how many calls are they getting, and that will weigh on, on their vote. And you look at what happens, and that can really be effective. My point is Virginia, when they tried to pass the assault weapon ban, because there was enough pressure on a few key Democrats, because of the grassroots, it convinced the Democrat that it was political suicide to vote for the assault weapon ban, and it was eventually killed. Of course, some other gun control passed in Virginia, sadly, but that was an example of putting enough political pressure on a politician to getting them to do the right thing. I believe one senator said once, "When I feel the heat, I see the light," and that's what we got to do. That's GOA's whole approach to politics is grassroots activism. We give our members the tools to be armchair lobbyists. And in this case, in Georgia, door knockers and phone callers to make a difference for the Second Amendment. That's what we're all about. So
yep. I agree. And I've seen people comment over and over again, it's a waste of my time to contact my representatives. My representatives are anti-gun. I'm not going to waste my time. Those representatives, they fear the ballot box. They really do. And yes, some of them, like Nancy Pelosi, their positions forever cemented. And I understand that, but you still have to use the power that was given to us, and that is to contact our representatives. We elect them to represent us, and they do listen. I know a lot of people say, they just don't listen. As Jordan just broke it down for you, every phone call that comes in, they have a staff member sitting there tallying how many people have what position on whatever law or belief that is, hot topic that they politically. And so if you contact them and say, I'm opposed to the assault weapons ban, I'm opposed to magazine bans, I'm opposed to whatever, they do take note of that. And then there is, that information is given to the representative. Now, what they do with that information is up to them. However, if you go back to 1994, when they passed the assault weapons ban, immediately after that, the next election cycle, the Democrats lost the House and the Senate. I mean, they were just swept out. It was a huge purge. And I think Bill Clinton even went so far as to say that was one of the biggest political mistakes of his life.
Yep.
Because, the voters were so outraged. They didn't think it was going to happen. People out there that think, oh, well, Joe Biden really isn't that anti-gun, or he really isn't going to do that. Well, people thought that in 1994, as I previously stated earlier in the stream. They passed the law, and there was a huge purge. And for years after that, you didn't hear much talk about gun control, because the Democrats learned they paid a heavy price for that. They learned that they will be voted out. So I think perhaps the lesson of 1994, it's been so far in the past now, it's decades gone, that, the AOCs of the world and the new junior members of Congress and in the Senate, they weren't politically active back in 94 when all that went down. So they don't know that there was a huge purge afterwards, that they, many of them lost their jobs. They want to stay in power. And if they're in states like Georgia, there's a fine line there. And they have to listen to what the will of the people are, their constituents, because if they go too far in one direction or the other, they could be put out on the street and they won't have a job anymore. And believe me, they want to keep that job and they want to keep that power, because right or wrong, that power brings wealth. Take a look at, all these lifelong politicians that go into either the House or the Senate, and they are of modest means, and they come out multimillionaires at the end of it all. They want to hold on to that power, and they want to hold on to the ability to turn that power into money and everything else and privilege. So they do listen. And please never make the mistake of thinking, even for a moment, that your voice doesn't count, or that nobody's listening. That's like saying a vote doesn't count and voting doesn't matter. It most certainly does.
Absolutely.
And we got to get out. And that boils down to what we're facing right now in Georgia.
Yep.
Got to get out and vote.
This whole election season, kind of my theme was, it's not enough to just vote, right? Obviously I work for GOA. My job is political. I did a lot of political things for candidates for GOA. But in my spare time, I knock doors for pro-gun candidates. My wife and I knocked hundreds of doors in my area to get out the vote for those candidates. And really, that's why, I came here to Georgia as well, because it's just not enough to sit back and if you live in Georgia, just to vote. It's not enough. We need to not leave any option on the table. We need to give it 100% and go all out, and because the stakes are that high, right? If the way I'm looking at this is, if I leave anything on the table, I can't sleep at night. I can't live with myself. That's why we're doing this, and it truly is a very important election. So.
Like you, this stuff keeps me up at night. I mean, I literally, fear what the future holds, not just for me, but for my children. And the reason I fight so hard at my age is because I have 3 young boys, and I want them to live in a free America, at least as free as it was when I was a kid. I want it more free. But, they look, if your voice doesn't matter, then why are the other side, the anti-gunners, pouring so much money into the effort? Why is there discussions of people from California taking up residency in GA in Georgia so they can vote in this Senate cycle? And why are politicians in the state issuing stern warnings saying, don't you dare come here and game our election system. If you come here and try to claim residency, we're going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. And it is a felony to do that. And so if it didn't matter, if voting didn't matter, if hounding your politicians didn't matter, then why is the other side doing it? There's streams going on right now here on YouTube of other people trying to motivate their base to go to Georgia right now
Yep.
just so they can get anti-gun laws passed. They want to get a hold of the Senate so they can push their progressive agenda through, which unfortunately includes disarming all of us.
Yep. You're exactly right. Now, GOA is not going to encourage voter fraud. That's not what we're doing.
No,
I'm
absolutely
not going to
not.
vote in the upcoming election. But even if there is voter fraud, that just means we got to win by more, right? We have to get even more votes and make it such a huge difference. Such a strong margin that there are two clear winners, and make it definitive. That's why we're working so hard on this.
Yep. And I agree. And that's why I'm going to Georgia here shortly. That's why other people are going to Georgia. That's why we're going to do everything we can to legally, help this election along so the outcome is to our favor. Yep. And just like Jordan said, we're not advocating for doing illegal acts. That's what the other side does. We want to go there and do things right because we can change people's minds. We can get people out to vote.
And the anti-gunners are they're coming out in full force.
Oh, absolutely.
I saw on Fox News where AOC said she's coming to Georgia to campaign. I felt kind of grossed out about that, but she's going to come down and campaign, and it is that they're giving it everything they have. So that's why we cannot. We have to give it 110%.
Yep, absolutely. And there's again, guys, it doesn't matter what you can contribute something. Either become a member of GOA. If you're nearby, you can afford to take a few days off and come out and meet with us. Again, we'll start posting information as the date gets closer, where we're going to be meeting, what the plan of attack is, and what we're going to be doing. If you can come out and join us and meet with Jordan and myself, an Iraq veteran, and other social media folks, get trained up and go out and do the door knocking and all that stuff that needs to be done, then great, please come out. But if you can't financially support, if is to the best of your ability, GOA, because they're out there on the ground. Jordan, how long have you been there? How many?
Been here
how many
a
days?
week.
I'm sorry?
I've been here a week.
You've been here a week, and you're going to be there when I come down, right?
Yeah.
So I'm coming down in December, folks. So it's really important. Now, when is this election going to take place for the runoff election?
So if you live in Georgia, you can request an absentee ballot. You can already do that. You have to register to vote by December 7th. So that's coming up shortly. Early voting begins December 14th, and then election day is January 5th. So, vote however way you want. Just vote legally, but vote. That's the bare minimum. And then you can help us make phone calls or door knock or whatever.
Yeah, if you're active duty military, you're deployed right now, there's still time to get registered, to do, send in your ballot. There's plenty of time to get set up to vote. If you live in Georgia and you're like what I used to do professionally and would go live in another state for months on end for your job, get an absentee ballot and make sure you vote. I mean, it's that simple. And if you live in Georgia and you have friends on Facebook and other social media sites, be politically active. Post this stuff. Don't be combative. Don't name call. Just post stuff to reach out to your friends on Facebook to urge them to vote or have a conversation about this issue, and do everything you can on that front, because it really does help and it really does change minds. I've changed many minds of even people I worked with that were staunchly anti-gun who are now gun owners but are still Democrat. Like I said, not all Democrats are anti-gun. We can all do our part, even if it's something just as simple as having that conversation. I also want to urge, if you reach out to your representatives, there's certain things, certain rules you need to follow that are unwritten. Keep the communication short and to the point. Use good punctuation and grammar, and have it, have somebody else proofread it before you send it. But keep it short and to the point. Don't make threats, like even a threat like I'll kick your butt out, on election day next time around. If you don't do this, don't make threats. Be cordial, to the point. Keep it to a couple of sentences. Don't write them a novel because they won't have time to read it. That might not get actually read. Keep it short, to the point. Be polite. and be consistent. Constantly do it. Just sending one email or making one phone call isn't going to do the trick. You got to keep the pressure up. And especially going into this 4-year cycle, assuming Biden's the president, which he probably is. I know it hasn't been called yet, but I have to point that out because people say, oh, he's not officially the president yet. This next 4 years, guys, we're going to have to be on our toes. And, I'm not going to be doing a bunch of political videos because I don't want to cry wolf, but I also want to do enough to keep, as much information out there and keep people motivated to vote, to contact their representatives, because I think it's important. And I think we need to have all social media folks that do this with firearms, post on social media, professionally, if you will, reach out to them. And if they're not politically engaged, politely ask them why not. We all need to reach out to our audiences because being a gun owner makes you a political person. If you own a firearm and you're not actively in the fight to maintain and keep our Second Amendment or to restore stolen rights, then you're doing something wrong. So, all that stuff is important. I'm going to check for super chats here really quick. Jordan, is there anything else you want to say? We're coming up on an hour. We're only about 9 minutes.
I echo everything you say. I would just add one simple thing. When you contact your representatives, tell them you're a voter, right?
Yep.
Tell them you're a voter because they care about power. And, winning their next reelection is the key to keeping their power. So that's the only thing I would add to that.
Yep. And it does make a difference. I remember, I think it was after the Vegas tragedy, there was a politician in Florida, and we were doing live streams calling him out because he was a Republican pushing for a bump stock ban, a legislative ban. And we were doing streams and stuff, and we had his phones ringing off the hook. His office called Copper Custom and said that the representative wanted to speak to me, knowing full well I live in Indiana. And that's the amount of pressure we put on it. And by the way, they didn't win re-election. That politician's gone. That Republican lost a seat. But his office actually contacted Copper Custom to talk to me to try to call off the dogs. And no, my response was I don't negotiate with traitors. I just don't. You're doing this, and until you stop, I'm going to keep the pressure up. And that's the position I believe we have to take. It's really going to be that cut and dry. We got a super chat here. It says mildly off topic, but wanted to shout out to Maj Touré and Black Guns Matter. Excellent organization. Curious about your thoughts, if willing to discuss. I've met Maj several times. I follow him on social media. I have his phone number. We text back and forth. I've watched him rise in the social media sphere, and I think his message is important. He reaches a whole different demographic than most other social media folks that are in the gun world do. And it's an important demographic to reach. And so I think the work that he's doing is incredible. I mean, we see Maj now on Fox News and all sorts of places. His voice is getting louder and louder. And I think it's an awesome thing. Anybody that supports the Second Amendment and is a libertarian like Maj is, that's great to have on our side. Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with everything you say. GOA loves Maj. In fact, we sponsored several of his events that he does, and he's coming to Georgia too. He'll be in I believe Atlanta on the 30th of November, and in Savannah on the 1st of December. Those are events that we're helping to put on from GOA. So we're just trying to extend his reach as much as we can from GOA.
Yep, funny story. So Maj and I were talking, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the NRA here. Sorry. But Maj was talking to them, and they were expressing interest in working with him. And I called him up on the phone and said, dude, it's a viper pit. Do not get involved with those people. It ain't going to play out the way you think it's going to play out. And I said, you really need to talk to the guys at GOA. I think maybe even I reached out to you, but I said, Maj, you really need to talk to GOA because the NRA isn't the path forward. You really need to see what a true Second Amendment organization is like. So watching you guys start to work together was really awesome to see because, he is a staunch Second Amendment advocate where basically
Absolutely.
believes the same thing we do. All gun laws are unconstitutional and therefore illegal.
Yep.
And we have 5 minutes left. So let's kind of tie up the stream. Just scrolling through here to make sure I didn't miss any super chats. And we want to thank all of you guys for doing the super chats. We are viewer supported, and the super chat money is going to help us get ourselves down to Georgia when we go on these types of expeditions. You know, that's money out of our pockets, which is money well spent. And so, renting the car, getting the hotel rooms, eating on the road, all that stuff takes real money. But we really look forward to getting down to Georgia. Jordan, I'm looking forward to seeing you again in person and working together with GOA in Georgia to get out the vote and, hopefully secure those 2 seats.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everyone who signed up to volunteer, whether that's door knocking or phone calls, or thank you to everyone who gave a donation. That really helps us so much. And I want to thank Tim for having me here and giving me a platform and a voice to extend our message.
Absolutely, anytime. GOA is always welcome on the channel, and I think, unfortunately, for the next 4 years, we're going to be doing a lot of streams together, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's important, and I value our relationship considerably. I value everything that GOA does. Again, I'm pretty selective about who I hitch my wagon to, and like I said, you can't find a more pro-gun organization than Gun Owners of America. Guys, if you want to get involved, there's a URL down at the bottom of the video right now. It's the URL. It's gunowners.org/volunteer. Please go to that URL, and there you can sign up to become a volunteer to help out in the battle that we're currently waging in Georgia for the 2 Senate seats. Also, if you just go to gunowners.org, if you want to support Gun Owners of America from that URL, you can become a GOA member, and I strongly urge you guys to do that. I think it's called a Patriot member because I donate every month. You don't have to do that. You can do a one-time year membership, or you can do like I do and donate every month. It's important that we fund GOA because they share our belief that all gun laws are unconstitutional, and they're unwavering in that stance. They have never once have I caught them saying something that I didn't agree with. And so it's important that we support them because they actually use those dollars for good things. They don't go out and waste them on, expensive suits and private jets. They spend that money very, very carefully. And I know that because they don't have big flashy headquarters and hundreds of employees. It's an organization that has millions of members, but is very, very careful in how it spends that money that they bring in. And that's one of the reasons I absolutely love Gun Owners of America. And just got a $5 super chat. Thank you so much. No comment, but it is greatly appreciated. All right, guys, we are 2 minutes to the end of the hour, so we're going to wrap things up. Jordan, is there anything that you'd like to say before we sign off?
I'll just reiterate, the Second Amendment is worth fighting for, and I hope you'll join me and Tim in Georgia to save the Senate, the Second Amendment, and our country.
Yep, so. I agree with you 100%. I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you guys there. Again, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Parler. We've jumped over to Parler. It's a great site that got a lot of traction all of a sudden after the election. They're just exploding in popularity. I believe it was the #1 downloaded app in the App Store for at least a week straight. And they don't censor us, so we can post anything we want. We can post pictures of guns. We can post deals. You'll see Mr. Guns and Gear doing his typical posts for deals here and there, and they don't censor us. And if you follow somebody on Parler, you actually get notified of their new posts. They don't squash you like they do on Instagram and Facebook, and they don't censor us. So please check out Parler, follow us over there, and right here on YouTube, and we'll keep you guys posted as to what we're up to and when we start moving our way down to Georgia to help GOA and everybody else in Georgia in their fight to protect these 2 Senate seats. All right, guys, we'd like to thank you all for tuning in. If you would please like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. It really does help, and comment down below because that helps with the algorithms, and it's important we spread this message. So again, please share the link, post it all over, and try to get people motivated to help out in the battle for the 2 Senate seats in Georgia. All right, guys, that's it. We're right at 8 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys soon. And hopefully, I'll see many of you in Georgia. Have a good evening, guys.